Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. What's up, guys? What's up, insiders? Welcome. This is going to be a fun and fantastic episode. And as you see, big show. We got a whole bunch of videos on the screen. So let's and familiar faces for all of our insiders, as you know. So let us know who is watching. And as always, guys, before I introduce our guest, we are sponsored by the Virtual Fight Tour. Actually, one of our guests here, and Jesse has done a great job. Jesse Ray has done a great job of changing the sport and supporting Inside Scoop, Main Gang, and everything that we do here. So thank you, man. And we are excited to have you on to talk about another way that all of us are trying to push the sport forward. So. All right, so we are here to talk about CAPA. So that is the Coaches and Player Association. Let's go with my man Josh to let everyone know, and then we will I'll let you introduce everyone that's involved in CAPA.
Fantastic. Yep. Well, first, Alex and Jeff, thanks for having us on this show. We love your platform. We watch all your episodes. You guys are fantastic. And you guys are really doing the same thing that CAPA is trying to do, right? We're just trying to further the progress of sport martial arts in a positive way. So thank you for all that you do. And Jeff, that's one reason why we basically recruited you and bullied you to being on part of CAPA. So my name is Josh Horge, for those of you who don't know me, and I run Team Dojo Elite along with Alex Reyes, coach and sponsor, and love the sport, been a part of it for a long time. Been teammates with Jeff Dawson in the past, fought Alex, he beat me a few times, and so Mike Conroy.
We've gone this way a couple times.
Mike Conroy was a coach of mine, and he kind of spearheaded this whole CAPA thing. Once again, for the positive progress of sport martial arts. After a few events, a lot of us coaches would kind of get together and be like, man, we wish it would be like this, or what about this? And a lot of them are promoters also, and they know that promoting is not an easy game for anybody. The amount of work and effort, the risk and liability these promoters take on, we're very grateful for everything that they do. Our whole goal is to partner with them to make it better. So Mike got us all together, said, guys, let's work as a team to help these promoters, these events, just go to the next level. And that's our goal, really, no pun intended, Jesse, is really take these events to the next level through the support from the coaches and the players. Everything we talk about is not what we want. It's the feedback we're getting from the parents who are who are the customers, the students, the competitors, the coaches. We gather this information and we just present this to the promoters, and a lot of them are listening. So that's really why CAPA started. So thanks, Mike, for kicking it off, and Jesse, thank you for keeping us together. Jackson is here because, along with Jeff, Jackson has an amazing platform. These two guys are like the Google of sport martial arts, right? They know every fun fact about every event, not just forms, but also fighting. And they're bringing a huge forms component into what we do to make sure that all facets of the sport martial arts are being addressed in a positive way.
Awesome. Alex, what do you got to ask as far as before we get started, going more into detail, what a couple of our focuses are as far as the main things that CAPA is pushing and urging for?
Well, let's look at that. So CAPA being the Coaches and Players Association, this is fantastic. I was trying to explain this to somebody, and they were like, "What the heck is that?" And I'm like, and I tried to explain it and say, we're a fantastic amateur sport. That's what we are. We're an amateur sport, and we're dang good at what we do. But professional sports, a lot of them have like player associations, right? Or coaches associations. So what they do is there's an association that petitions on behalf of coaches and players. This America in the Americas has really grown to the point where we kind of need that. How in the heck did you guys get started with such a broad thing of what we have in front of us? What was the starting point? What was like the first topic that you guys said we have to look at X?
Mike, you got this?
I think we was at a couple different events.
Now the first event it started at AKAs. I got about probably on Friday night alone, like 5 different phone calls about a lot of stuff that was happening at AKAs and people saying, hey, you know what? This stuff can't go on, and we are not here to boycott anybody, talk bad about anybody's tournament, but the promoters that are listening and trying to change, those are the ones we really all should stick by, as far as parents, players, teams. Those are the ones we stick by. When you got, for certain teams, you got someone waiting 3 hours to team fight because a team is stuck in the airport. That's not the team's fault that is there already. Okay. When you got different rules in different rings, it's just not right. So we're trying to bring together and take away all the gray areas. But it did start from AKAs 2 years ago. And we sat down. I told Josh, I said, listen, we need to form a team. We need to, get an association, almost like a union, and let everybody know with these teams, you're talking at maybe 150 to over 200 competitors that if we stick together, we should not support them events that don't want to help us. It just doesn't make sense to me. For years, we've been going to events that everybody says, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. Then the next year we're back there. Okay. So why would an event change? Okay. If we do nothing about it. So this is what this is about. We have to do something about the sport. And we're not bullying. We're not trying to take over. We're just trying to help is actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to help the sport, not damage it. So if we stick together, these promoters will listen. And a lot of them have, just like Josh and Jesse said, a lot of them have changed ring sizes. They call us up. They talk to us at tournaments. What can we do to make our tournament better? I believe even at Quebec's, they pulled I think Josh over, said, look, we got the sound system set up to the ring. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, they pulled Jesse aside and told Jesse that one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, these are big steps for us. I've been involved in martial arts for a lot of years and going to tournaments since I was like 7 years old. And this is the biggest impact and change that I have seen since I've started tournaments. People have tried, people walked out, people did things, but this time promoters are actually listening. And I think this is the biggest thing for our sport and the best thing right now that we have going.
Yeah, with that being said, just to go over a few things, for example, Ocean State, we gave them a rating and stuff like that. They contacted us. They made a bigger ring, bigger stage than they did last year. They even changed the location of it. Quebec Open, they had 7x7 rings, which we were petitioning about, were ring safety. They also had what we mentioned about screaming out medics. You already see the change with that. They had the ears pieces where you could just walkie-talkie a medic direct, like Secret Service, which was something we discussed on our show. Also, we had Juventex had the button for the medic as well. We see Mad Action has added that button since one of our discussions. And now we're in touch with the Battle of Atlanta, and they made a whole bunch of different changes based on CAPA influence. So promoters are listening, and a lot of them are working with us and are being very helpful.
So Alex, some of our first big topics were fighter safety, right? And just rule consistency. We were like, we just asked, we want you to post your rules and make sure they're consistent. We don't even care. Some of us love body jabs. Some of them hate it. We don't care what they choose. Just be consistent and post your rules and follow by the same rule set. That was our first request. And our second one was really for fighter safety. These rings that are small, 6x6, and they're lifted on the stage, and they have like a half a foot before they fall off the stage. It's unacceptable for fighters. It really is. It's just not okay. And people have been complaining about ring size forever in stages. Yes, Alex?
Well, let's talk about that just for a moment. It's not just player safety. It is also fairness, right? Okay, I'm going to put this out there. So these are two fighters that we know of. This was years and years ago. This is probably 5 years ago, right? Roman Brundle is a long fighter. He's very, very long, right? and he can kick very well. He needs space, right? If you or he would like you closer, that way he could hit you a bunch. If you want to fight him, you need lots of space. So at the Austrian Classic, it was probably 5 years ago, Ross Cook was fighting him. And when he had a 7x7 square ring, he beat him. But then the next day they fought in a 6x6 and he got beat by a spread. It does matter.
It makes
The
a big
ring size.
difference.
It's not just safety, although that matters, right? Fairness, like what you were talking about earlier, fairness matters too. We need to know what the rules are so that way we can not only plan for what we're competing with, we need to train that way too.
Yeah, but Alex, if you're gonna have a rule where at one point if you go out of bounds, you gotta give them a little more room. You know what I mean?
There you go. So,
Well,
but it's not just for the safety, although that's super important. We need to know what we need to train for, right? Let's say this 20 years ago, the super fights became a prominent thing. Like, all right, this is the thing. But when it first started, we didn't really get what it was. Then once we figured out all right, now we know what it is. We trained for that. But we needed to know that needed to be the same. And for it was a while where it wasn't the same. And that's why it just kind of lost its touch because nobody knew what they were doing.
I agree. Some tournaments have 6x6. Some have 6x6. Some have 7x7. Whenever you play basketball, the court's the same size, right? Like so we have to have consistency across the board. That was one of our big issues.
The black belt adult male and female fighting. Let's be clear with that too.
Well, when we start
30 plus, yeah.
when we start going to 1 foot out, what people are not realizing, you're going with 1 foot out instead of 2. Now you're eliminating 2 feet of that ring because your feet are apart. So as soon as you put that 1 foot out, now you're eliminating 2 feet of that ring. Okay, that's what they have to realize, that they're cutting our ring off by putting 1 foot out. And I don't mind the 1 foot out as long as we said it's a 7x7 ring.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not hard. I mean, the out of bounds rule to me is actually the simplest rule in sport karate. Hey, if something touches you, pushes you out, okay, you're forced out. That's the only forced out. Okay, no other way to go out of the ring should be legal to me, in my eyes. You know, I mean, if you're running out, if you kick and fall out of the ring, that's not good. I mean, that shouldn't even be a point. That should be a point to the side. You got to maintain that ring. But when it's 6x6, that makes it really hard because you're cutting off 2 feet on every side of that ring.
Yes.
What's your take on that, Jesse?
Yeah, I agree with that. If you are pushed out by a hard martial arts technique, then okay, that is like a force out. You're pushed out. But if you are for any other reason, if you go out of bounds, you tiptoe out of bounds or whatever, you go out of bounds without being contacted, that's a point the other side. I mean, that's clear as day. If we keep making everything gray area, if you go through like a lot of the rules from a lot of different leagues, some of them are solid and some are just gray area. Like, for example, I'm not picking on NASCA, but the NASCA rule, they got a fairness rule. They got a whole bunch of things that you could go to that are gray. What I think they need to tighten up on is make it black and white. Even Jackson, I know you're going to touch on this as far as the butterfly kick versus the butter knife kick.
Which should both be legal, by the way, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Right. Which leaves gray area. So just make it again, one rule at a time, but let's start making everything clear as day.
Awesome.
I think that again, like some of the biggest things that we really touch on is customer service, weigh-ins. I think that everybody's starting to go in that direction when you weigh in, show your ID. We also, one of our main topics was giving us time to get there on a Friday. Some tournaments used to start like so early on a Friday for main events, and a lot of times teams would miss it.
And let's get to the bottom line of that. Okay. Let's be truthful. Okay. Yeah. The more rooms you sell, okay, the better your deal is for the hotel.
Well,
okay?
As long as we're being truthful, can we just call out the biggest culprits of that? Because we all know it's
no, we don't want to say
We
like
don't want to do that.
No,
If you
the
want to
thing
do
is
that,
though,
I
yes,
will do that, and it's okay. It's not like a bad thing. I don't think that that's bad on their end. I understand the business part of it.
I do understand that it's a business part, but as coaches and players, okay,
Yeah.
school owners and people that work full-time jobs, okay, now not only do they got to take Friday off because they have to
Thursday.
fly out at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, okay, they got to, a lot of them take Thursday off to make sure they're there on time.
Right.
Okay. A lot of us lose a lot of money by leaving on a Thursday or early Friday. So it doesn't really benefit the teams that are going, because sometimes, how many times have you had a player? I'm sure Josh, Jesse, I know myself, I have, okay, had players that couldn't make it on time because of work on a Friday night. And I had to put him as an alternate to make sure if we did win or when we won, we would be able to use that player the next day.
Yeah. Well, let's give some credit to the promoters. Some promoters have already altered their old schedule and made it
right
timely for us. You know, kudos to them. But I think that sometimes too, as a promoter, there's a lot more events now, so they want to have their tournament in a timely fashion as well. I think I spoke to Christine, and she was like, "Yeah, she moved the time, but it was going to be tough to finish everything, all the divisions that they had."
Yeah, look at that. A lot of people are leaving on Wednesday now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that means you're taking 5 days for a martial arts tournament.
Now, there are some events that people just bake in that they want to do that for. And that's a personal choice. Like if you want to do that.
Yeah.
And there's some that are, you kind of have to, like if you were going to go to the Point Fighter Cup, which is in Italy, for those of us in, North America, like you kind of have to do that. Right. So that makes a little bit of sense for someone coming from Germany.
You don't want to go to a tournament and just get there on a Friday, jump in and compete. Of course, it's ideal to be there.
That's not going to happen.
It's ideal to be there early, but it's a lot of people that can't, like Mike said, that do work real jobs, don't have extra staff. Some people are one-man shows at the karate school. So,
well, let's say like this though, Jesse. So I'm in Chicago. There's a XYZ tournament in Massachusetts. We'll say that. All right. That tournament for the size, it may be no specific tournament. I don't even have one in my mind. All right. But for the size of the whole event, the amount of competitors, a lot of times you could do that in one day. But we don't know how many people are going to be there. So I understand doing it in 2 days. There's two things we don't like. We don't like that it has to start at 10 a.m. We also don't like that it ends at 1 a.m. on a Friday.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think, we are seeing, the ones that prepare the best for it do the best, right? It's just the way it is, right? And so how can we help with that, right? So those are some of the things, the next thing that we're talking about as well. One of the things that we're talking about, helping the event flow better. This is a new thing that we are presenting, and the battle is going to be using it. And that is a forms rules reference. All right. So that is something that we kind of came up just kind of discussing what are some things about that we need to focus on for forms. And then Jackson and I kind of got together and cleaned it up. And so we are working on that and getting that out for everyone. But pretty much kind of like, and I'm sure I've talked about this on the show before, but back in the NBL days or in other tournaments before a division, we would say, here, let's read the rules of this, right? So again, this is just a kind of a raw version of this, but we have kind of like, all right, creative. Here's 3 key points to look at for creative. Musical. Here's 4 key points for musical. Here's extreme, especially for those judges that have been sitting there the whole time. And honestly, unfortunately, a lot of the forms look the same They may, some people even do 3 of the same form. They don't know how to judge one or the next, and they may even forget. Oh, wait, was that an inverted move?
It's
Is
really
this
hard.
the one where I'm not supposed to
Make it
you know,
bigger if possible.
He's trying to. We may have to.
Okay.
But yeah. So this is kind of a raw thing that we're gonna put out. We're gonna have it at every every judge's chair, so that way they can go and really work on that. All right. So there we go.
I think this is a game changer
Yes.
because, like, what can you read number 1?
Yes. Can you scroll that down for me?
Or up.
Yeah, up.
All the way up
Sorry.
to the first one, creative.
Yeah. So when we go with creative, it says no inverted techniques with both feet off the ground except rolls, right? So that way we know exactly. That's a clean kind of way. We're not saying a name of a move, right? And which I'll let Jackson take over in a second. No more than 360-degree jump spinning kicks. That means in the air, regardless of terminology. So those are the key ones. That way it's a reminder. Okay, this is what we can and can't do. It's also a good thing for them to read it, but also maybe even read it to the competitors. So a good time to be like, wait a minute, does that mean I can't do this? That's always something that actually I think the competitors should ask. Hey, am I allowed to do this in this division? So I think
And that's why that's a game changer.
yes.
It took you 7 seconds to read line 1 and line
Correct.
2. And
Correct.
you just say that right before to the judges and to the competitors. The competitors that have it in their hand, they could go over it like, oh man, I had a cartwheel in my kick, or aerial, I got to take that out. It's just a quick reminder, just like that. I think this is a game changer.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and it is. Jackson, do you want to go ahead on that?
Yeah, and I want to go back to what Jesse said about, the butterfly kick versus the butter knife and kind of that confusion associated with it. And honestly, I see Carmichael Simon in the chat. Like, anybody who knows tricking or knows extreme or performance martial arts, whatever label you want to put on it, knows what a butterfly kick should be, knows what a butter knife should be. And one problem that we experience, and people who watch my show know that I am somebody who supports reform of the current NASCA Creative Forms rule. I love the fact that NASCA has been willing to change it in the past. It was just on too short of a timetable. So it shows they're willing to consider new things, but the circumstances just weren't right the first time around. But what this document says, with a quick reference that's based on the NASCA rules, this is not trying to say that the rule should be this. This is not trying to say that judges should judge this way or that way. This is essentially just a paraphrasing, an accurate paraphrasing of what the NASCA rule is trying to say in a very, very condensed version, so that a judge who has never seen a creative form before can look at those 2 lines and know really what the most important thing is, which is, should a competitor be disqualified or not? And one of my favorite little phrases in that creative part of that document is regardless of terminology. Because as Jesse was saying with the butterfly and the butter knife, I can't tell you in the last couple of years how many competitors I have seen do an inverted technique in which their head goes below their hips, they flip upside down, and then do a hook kick at the end of it. And then if anybody says anything about it, the explanation is, oh, well, it was a butter knife. Number one, it's not a butter knife by definition, because to do a butter knife, you have to do a wushu butterfly, which is not an inversion, folled by a hook kick. Butter is for butterfly. The knife is the hook kick at the end of it. That's how that terminology breaks down. But the problem is that when competitors get arbitrated and they say, oh, no, I didn't do an illegal technique, I did a butter knife, and the judges don't know what butter knife means, there's no way to disqualify the competitor. And so that's why, there's an emphasis that needs to be placed on, it doesn't matter what you call it. Even if the judges don't know the terminology, the name of a technique, anybody can see with their own 2 eyes, did the head go below the waist? Did the competitor rotate more than 360 degrees? And if the answer to either of those questions is yes, it doesn't matter if you call it a cheat 360 or cheat this or butter knife that. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's what the judges saw is what is getting you disqualified. And I think that that is a great place to start that doesn't require change of the actual rule, that eliminates some of the gray area and the bending of the rules that we see that is impacting creative forms right now. There are divisions where we see essentially extreme forms win the creative forms division because of competitors trying to bend the rules to up their level of difficulty, when in reality, creative forms should be about the creativity of how you choreograph the routine and the cleanliness of the techniques executed. And we've got, I don't want to say it like every player is bending the rules. We've got some athletes in the sport right now that are doing an incredible job of doing creative forms as it's meant to be done. I've spoken highly recently of Ben Jones and Rashad Eugene and the forms that they've been doing in the men's creative forms division. Down in the juniors, we saw 2 creative forms make it all the way to the Warrior Cup final with Philip Brunet and Avery Presley. There are people who are doing it the right way and finding success. Marcel Jones is doing a great job training up a lot of those guys to do it the right way, and no one better to train people up on creative forms than Marcel Jones, right?
Ooh,
So
say it louder for the
who are
people in the
doing
back.
fun. Gabrielle's trying to tell me. Clearly, Gabrielle didn't get the memo that we're live tonight. But anyway, all of that is to say is that although there are players that do try to bend the rules and win arbitrations that way, there's definitely a good subset that people can look to who are doing things the right way as well.
I have a question.
Well
And
said.
I thought about this as we were leading into this, and it's exactly what we're talking about right now, Jackson. And it popped in my head yesterday. We haven't seen anybody do it in probably 20 years. What if in the creative forms division, someone does a handstand kick? I'm just curious.
What's
Where does
crazy
this-
about this, Alex, is obviously I'm not going to disclose what competitor did this. But a competitor well, no, it didn't happen in competition, but a competitor reached out to me asking my opinion because they know I care a lot about the rule, about if I thought it was legal or not. And I had to tell that competitor that by rule, it is illegal, because a handstand with like an L kick or whatever you want to call it, in the middle of that technique, you're in the same position that you're in for a cartwheel. You've got both feet off the ground and you are inverted. That is an illegal technique. Do I personally think that we should allow L kicks in creative? I think it's a move that probably fits the spirit of the division, but there are sacrifices that you have to make when you write the rule, right? For example, when there is rule reform, there's a possibility that an illusion twist, which has been a creative form staple for years, depending on the way you word it, that move might need to be sacrificed for increased clarity moving forward. And at the end of the day, nobody is winning or losing creative forms just based off of their illusion twist. So that's one thing that the community might have to accept, is there might be some techniques that are currently legal that are sacrificed so that creative forms can start to have not look the way it should or anything like that, but just so it's more clear, so that we don't have an arbitration literally every other tournament, if not every tournament.
Right.
But so then basically, just like we were having the fighting discussion, all right, we're like, Coach, you were saying, and just so everybody knows, I'm just going to call you Coach the whole time. I'm not going to say Conrad. I'm not going to say, certainly not going to say Mike, all right? You're Coach forever. So in case you guys wanted to know, that's what it is. But Coach was talking about how simple, this is the simplest rule, right? You got, if you're forced out, you're forced out, right? It doesn't matter if you got 1 foot or not, right? And we're looking at it like, yeah, if you got 1 foot out in a 6x6 ring, yeah, by the spirit of it, that should be okay. But you have to go with a very black and white scenario. You're either out or you're not. You're either inverted or you're not. It's the same dang thing.
Black
Is this
and
right?
white.
Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And guys, one of the things too we were talking about is having one of those as well, those kind of reference sheets as well. It should actually obviously be a lot smaller, but for fighting as well, to help the judges in that, you know.
Yeah.
There's not as much of differentiation between the rules, because we mostly have point sparring, you know, there may be a couple of different rules with team fighting than the other. So remembering that, right, and open weight and stuff. So that's another thing that is in the works as well, right? Right, Josh?
Let me ask y'all a quick question. Do you think that there's any reason that any promoter should have COVID money as their prize money at this time.
No, sir.
No.
No. It's a good. Did we just change topics? It was a great segue.
It was
Here
a
we
hard
are.
pivot.
Yeah, this is one of the things that was on our list because
Yes.
I know this year that NASCAR left it up to the promoter. You are allowed to give COVID money or pre-COVID money, which is the $1,000 and whatever. The COVID money was the $500 for the overall. There was no runner-up money, so on and so forth. I think $500 for teams, maybe. Whatever. So it was up to them this year. The year before, no problem. Whatever NASCAR said, everybody had to do. They couldn't do it. Some promoters got crafty and created a division that was a non-NASCAR division, like a super fight or something else, and gave bigger amounts of money. But this year, they had to. It was up to them to go COVID or pre-COVID.
Okay, can I
Right.
say something really quick?
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, I'm the only one in the show that's not part of the Coaches and Players Association. So I might think and feel differently on this than you guys. But let's go back in time. Let's hit a time travel machine. We're back 4 years ago. We put ourselves back in like the spring of 2019, where your overall might be $1,000. Oh, Andrew, I'm about to mention that. All right. Where your overall championship was $1,000. Didn't we kind of feel then like, all right, haven't we expired this? All right. This has been the same thing at that moment for the past 20 years at that point. Yet every other expense has increased 200%. Why is this still the same? And that's pre-COVID at that moment. Am I the only one who feels that way? Or am I crazy? I don't know.
Listen, we can go back further. Jesse, what was your first overall
Man,
at a big event?
my first overall,
2000.
probably at Twin Towers.
What
Maybe.
year?
No, my first overall. I want to say I think I came out the gate maybe one year.
I'm talking at a national event.
at a national event. Maybe 93 or 94. 94.
Yeah. Do you remember how much you won?
I really don't. That's the funny part. I was just so happy.
My first
Coach does.
my first big grand.
I know I won money for first place, and I won money for the grand champ.
My first grand championship at a major event was a New England Open in 1987. I won $1,000 for grand and $100 for first.
Yeah.
Right.
In
In 87. Okay. Why is this the same?
Right. Right.
Well, and
Exactly.
Coach Conroy, I was going to bring up, I think it was Martial Arts Center Network who posted it, the picture of the annual prize money that they used to publish every year from Linda Dinley in like 1996.
Yes.
She made five figures. I think it was like over 15 grand for her winnings on that season. You could go undefeated in an adult overall grand championship for a season, which is hard to do. Undefeated for an entire season and not make the money that Linda Dinley made in 1986. That's what's crazy.
Now, also, when we were number one in our division, we were comped. We didn't have to pay for the tournament.
Yes,
Exactly. That's something I
That's
speak about all the time on our show, man. It's,
Yeah.
Why are they
That, Jeff?
taking away?
Mm.
Why are they taking away?
right.
Well, again, remember too, back then was a lot of sponsors, man. You had sponsors all over the place. American Airlines, Budweiser, Trans World Oil,
Yeah, but Jesse,
Miller Lite.
Yeah, but Jesse, what were they sponsoring? They were sponsoring teams. They were not sponsoring events.
Right.
That's how it got ugly, because some promoters were getting some sponsorship and didn't put it back to the people and kind of got greedy. And
So
that happened just a few years ago. We had a a vitamin company or something with there was a couple NFL players that were always showing up, and they were sponsoring a few players at a time. And from what I understood, they put like $1 million into the circuit.
With us? Was spoke already?
Hello, where you been?
$1 million?
Like that. This is the rumor, and then it lasted like 1 year.
Wow.
Listen,
We
I'm
need names. We need
Shaquille
names.
O'Neal was sponsoring a team from Cali, Carl Kanai. Yeah, we had
This was a rumor that was going around. Okay, I know they sponsored a lot of players. They sponsored people that were on teams. Okay, like I know a few of my players got sponsored by that company. They still were our team and were represented us, but that sponsor paid for them.
Yeah.
That company.
But yo, just to stay on topic though,
Yeah.
we definitely want. I don't think again, I think tournaments are back in full effect. We've seen it at AKAs.
Bigger, correct?
I think California has some of its biggest numbers. Ocean State was packed. Quebec had big numbers. Tournaments are back. No, I feel those promoters should be giving COVID money.
Right.
Bare minimum.
Yeah.
We talk about that.
Yeah.
Bare minimum. At least get back to what
Right.
you were doing. Bare minimum.
And
But
and now you got somewhat a tournament like Ocean State. Okay. Why did they give so much money, or how did they get so much money? They worked hard to get sponsors for their event.
Correct.
Okay. You don't just go put up flyers and run a world event and not try to get sponsors and have people help you. I mean, you just, to me, it just seems like some people are dropping the ball and not pushing their event like they should.
And a lot of their sponsors are local. If you look at their advertisement book,
They were all local.
They were all,
Yeah.
most of 90%, 95% or 99% were local. Definitely.
Right.
And
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
that's an important first step, because one thing, and I preach about this all the time, is that right now tournaments make their money off of local participation, in large part due to underbelt participation and a contribution of that from the black belts plus the spectators, right? A big contribution is the spectators of the underbelts, because their mom and dad and grandma, brother and sister are all going to come watch them at the karate tournament, right? So
Right.
as of right now, most of the income from every tournament comes from the local area, which is why it's going to be very effective in the short term, as Ocean States has proven, to seek local sponsorship. In order to climb that ladder and get national or international sponsorship from major companies, that is where what I preach all the time comes in, which is the focus needs to shift from only making profit on the local area to being able to attract the eyeballs, whether that is through streaming, whether that is through broadcasting. What are you going to do to make your event a spectacle that can be displayed for people on the internet or on television? Because when you're getting that level of viewership, regardless of what platform it's on, I don't care if it's ESPN, I don't care if it's Amazon Prime, I don't care if it even starts as a Facebook stream like many events are doing now, or I love the fact that Uventex did a pay-per-view, because that's introducing another route of that income to come in. But if we focus on the visual spectacle, the product of sport karate, because we have phenomenal athletes to watch, whether it's forms and weapons or point fighting, it is a good spectator sport when people know what's going on, which is why the education of the audience is important as well. But that's a topic for another day. But if you're able to increase the viewership, that is when Gatorade, Nike, whoever, that is when your big Fortune 500 companies start to get interested, because that's the volume they care about, is how many eyeballs can they get put in front of. So we start at the local level, because tournaments make their money at the local level. So seek those local sponsors that have an impact on the community, and to start climbing the ladder, get the eyeballs first, and then you'll get those larger opportunities with the larger sponsors. But you got to be willing to make that jump in the first place.
and this
Absolutely.
is how all of these internet sensations make their money.
Right.
They get the followers by creating content that's going to get the eyeballs in, right? Once why is everybody watching this video? Why does this video have 2 million views? Then the advertisers come in.
Right.
Now they're getting checks. And what do? Nothing. They're in their house creating content and making money.
I honestly feel the first thing that this sport has to have is unity. We have, we're not blind. Okay. We got a section of promoters over here that want to do one thing. We have a section of promoters over here that want to do another thing. We have a section of promoters over here that want to do another thing. Okay. It goes as simple as when you go to register for a tournament. Let's put that out there. Okay. When you go to register for an event, Jesse, what happens when you have your players go register for an event? Where does it go?
When they go register for an event?
Yeah.
It goes to, what do you mean exactly? Oh, so it depends. If you go on our Naska website, no matter what event you click on, it's going to take you to Mad Action.
Right. That is not doing that tournament. Why are we having these problems and then we can't get the information that we need?
Right.
And then the tournament blames, well, it's not my fault. It's Mad Action. It's not my fault. It's Juventex.
Yeah. Put it like this. There's an organization, whoever's the head of the body of the organization, we all find it should be an easy fix because it's your organization, lay the law or get out. But it starts at the head of the organization.
Absolutely. We have to, get these guys, try to get them to work together. I mean, it's the only way that our sport is going to grow. When you go to Europe, there's basically WACO. Basically, that's it. There's WACO. Okay. All the rules are the same in every single ring. There's no different rules in not one of them rings. Okay. Listen, as much as Boyce Slidell is Boyce Slidell, okay, the NBL really had their stuff together. I think that as far as a format and the way the league ran, I think it was one of the best.
I mean, as far as like an organization, I will say that. Do you mean as far as everybody knowing and following the rules?
I think we might be doing a rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, I know.
That's okay. Knowing and following
that's what our
the rules,
show is, okay?
Exactly.
knowing and following the rules, okay?
Yep.
But having the same rules in every ring.
Right.
We don't want to go from one ring and have one set of rules, go to another ring and have another set of rules. Okay. Right. It happens at every tournament, correct?
Right. Well, and also, Coach, we even see that not just different rings, but also tournament to tournament. One of the other, and I'll get back to fighting, but one of the other issues we're having in forums is that one tournament, the judges are enforcing the traditional challenge rules the way they're supposed to. And then the next tournament, the person that wins actually broke 2 or 3 different rules, and no one is even knowing that that's an issue. You have the first, second, and third place people in the division many times kicking above their chin, which is against the rule. It's in the rule that you're not supposed to do that. You have that issue happening a lot.
Do they arbitrate it? Or nobody wants to look like that guy?
No one does. And the judges, again, are not vocal. I mean, so I'm just going to tell you from at Miami, I was the corner judge. I deducted 4 different people, and we told them ahead of time, and they were all like, wait, what? No, that we don't even what they acted like they didn't know the rule. Okay. It is up to competitors to know the rules, but also it's also the judges as well to know that, hey, we are enforcing them too. So it's a combo. And that's why
that's where it is right there.
The reference is a key thing. We tell them and inform them ahead of time. Yeah. And that way everyone's on the same page before, right?
And Jackson.
Yep.
What would you think about at the rings? You have a person looking for these specific things only. Hey, his head went below his waist. He's out. Okay. That kick was higher than the head, higher than the chin. He's out. I mean, just looking
you can't even get 3 judges.
Yeah, no, that's the hard part, but yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like when I talk about make it easy for the judges, forget terminology. Did they go upside down or not? Did they spin more than 360 or not? In fighting, did they step out of bounds or not? You shouldn't need an extra person for that. Like one of those 3 judges should be plain as day. Like that I think that that's ultimately what we're trying to get to. And that is why, like, another thing that I will commend NASCA for, although we don't know many details yet, is that they're following in the footsteps of a league like ProMac, who introduced judge certification. It looks like NASCA is now going to do some form of a judge certification. Those are the little things that are going to help people understand that, like, yeah, every judge on that panel should be able to tell if somebody was upside down or not.
Correct.
Well, I think though that's not a bad idea in the future.
It is.
Like, you know, if you gamble, they always got a guy with a jacket around the table that's watching everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Everything got to be clear by him. Even in Waco, they have somebody watching. If you're a bad judge, they're getting you out of there.
Right.
You can't.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say about Waco was if you guys listened to CTE Monday, Chris Walker explained that the head judge, they alternate back and forth. One time he'll be sitting and watching to make sure, hey, he'll step in and say, hey, no, this the rule is actually this needs to be changed. Now he'll switch with someone, they'll sit down, he'll be the center. That is something that can happen and happen at tournaments, you know.
He becomes the arbitrator.
Exactly. And that's another thing we talk about is too. We can't just have one arbitrator for a tournament with 20-something rings, you know. We need to have multiples, more than two as well. It is something that is, and I know it seems like now we're asking a lot, right? But
well, yes and no, Jeff, because let's look at it like this. Sometimes it helps to look at things black and white, kind of like Jackson's been telling us, like it either is or it isn't. So we either all have kids. Well, we all got kids except for you, Jackson. Sorry. Right. So, but we've all had it where you tell your kid, no, you cannot have a sucker. But that kid knows there's another parent in the house somewhere. And if that parent says, oh, okay, you can have it, that kid knows now it doesn't matter what the rule is. He knows if he wants to, he can eventually get what he wants. That's the same with the tournament. They know that they can throw a vertical kick in a traditional kata, which should not be allowed, right?
Japanese, please say Japanese.
Japanese, right? In Taekwondo all day. Let's bring it on.
Thank you, Jeff.
Right? Good clarification. All right. But so one judge might say, no, you can't. But if you complain enough, right? Okay, we'll allow it. Now there's no reason for rules whatsoever. Just same in your household. What's the point of having a no sucker rule if we're just going to give it out? There's no point of that. It's the same thing here. Black and white. Is there a rule or not?
On this topic of black and white, I've got the forums guys got a question for the fighters, because we've talked a lot about the out of bounds rule. I know that's something that CAPA's focused on, and so this is a discussion that I'm just genuinely interested to hear. And we've talked about how, like, if you get forced out, that should be easy to call. And we've talked about how if you're running out or avoiding contact or whatever, that should be easy to call, right? The question I have, because honestly, I think that I've seen judges do a pretty consistent job overall, especially when it's a good center, of calling forced out and calling running out. To me, where a lot of the gray area and the confusion comes in is when somebody attempts a blitz, the opposing fighter gets out of the way, and the fighter attempting the blitz has their momentum carry them out. I've seen that be a no call. I've seen that be called as if there was any type of a little bit of clash contact. I've seen that called as being pushed out, and I've seen it called as running out. How do you guys interpret that situation? And if you have an opinion on it, how do you think that should be interpreted when the blitzer misses and momentum carries them out?
Me and Josh disagreed on this one.
It's out of bounds. Out of bounds.
I personally don't like when the aggressor is going after someone and steps out and he gets called for out of bounds. That's me personally, because I feel like that person is the aggressor. He's seeking a point. He's going after him. He stepped out. Let him come back in.
Yeah, but then what that does is when you got a player on the edge of the ring, you're just going to blitz right at him, because if you go out of bounds, it's not even going to affect you.
Say that again? I think this is on the offensive person.
Right. They're going to offensively blitz at you at the edge of that ring, maybe go by you. I think you should have to control yourself and your techniques, where you're throwing techniques,
Yeah,
and
because
stay
then
in
they
that ring.
they'll start saying fighting out. I don't like that term. I don't like fighting out. I like it has to be black and white. I
But
agree, Jesse. I think it's not a
technically,
great
who
point.
was fighting out?
No. Listen, no, I don't like fighting out. So I was great. I was judging Brandon Ballou or somebody, and I like Brandon a lot. I was actually personally wanted him to win the fight, but he lost. He threw a spin kick, and he missed, and he fell out of bounds. He's like, I was fighting out. I'm like, you didn't make any contact. Like, people will start intentionally throwing kicks and falling out of bounds and saying I was fighting out, or lift their leg and pump, or like I do believe Mike said, if they feel like they're in a bad position, they may blitz just to get out of bounds. I think it has to be cut and dry. Were they forced out? No, they weren't. They went out on their. They lacked control. They went out on their own.
This goes back to Jackson saying that you got to sacrifice.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I'm cool with that.
I think
fighters will adjust. Fighters will adjust.
Yep.
And be more careful on the edges. So I'm cool with
You're
that.
right. You're right, Jesse. Fighters will adjust. But here's, I think, the best way to figure out what the answer should be. When we did the super fights and that were to happen, what would we have called then?
Point to the other side.
Which is what we want to avoid. We want to avoid fighters just going down for no reason. We want to avoid fighters running out of bounds. It's the same thing.
Right.
Yes, Vince, I hear you, Vince.
I agree 100% that if you're out unless you're touched, pushed, and
not touched, forced out. Not just
forced
touched,
out.
but be forced out. Yeah.
Forced.
Some
forced
of momentum pushed you out of bounds.
Right,
because,
correct. Yeah.
Here's another thing. We were fighting team fights at Quebec, and one of the judges, Tyreek, threw a blitz, and then Cam sidestepped, and Tyreek went right out of bounds. I said, it's a point. They said, no, but he touched him in the arm. I'm like, he wasn't forced out. They said, no, but he touched him. He made contact. So it has to be forced out. I think if, like Jackson's saying, if we're consistent, was he forced out? Yes or no? That should be the litmus test.
That's a slippery slope, though, Josh. Here's why that's a slippery slope. It's hard. It's hard to make a judgment call like that because if I'm fighting, I'm near the edge and somebody kicks me in the hand and I go out. They were coming forward. They hit me. It's cheap. And we've all fought and seen a bunch of Europeans play that game and we're like, you got to be kidding me. Right?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Go the Rocco route. Judges, come here for a minute.
Yep.
What'd you see?
But you're right, Alex. They'll milk it. Every fighter will find a way to kind of stretch the rules. But the more we can limit that, the better. But you're right. That's going to happen. But
yeah, I think that's just going to happen. There's always, no matter what the rule is, someone's going to try to bend it a little bit. That's just sports. Honestly, guys, that's just sports. That's just competition. That's just what happens. But the more that we can tighten it up, the better. I mean, for me, I always just laugh at how many times, kicks and punches below the belt don't get called. I mean, honestly, like that's me as a big deal. It's just kind of, all right, go. But technically in the rule, it's a legal technique, right? And it should be a point the other way, correct?
That's a great point that I've never thought about before.
I mean, so and that one.
Okay, shake it off.
Yeah.
Your heels.
And you know why? You know why we do that, Jesse? Though, because we're fighters. Because we want to get back in. We are okay. It's like whatever. Fine. I'm gonna stick you now. But that's a great point, Jeff. I've never.
But I mean, a lot of people. I mean, again, that's an injury to the knee. If you get a little too low, that's a hip injury. That is, I know most people, they're not the same after getting kicked in the, that area. So, I mean, it changes the game. And so if you make it more of a point to try to not to like focus more on where you're kicking instead of just wildly, oh, I missed, I'm sorry. Okay, you messed up just the same way as you blitzed and you went out of bounds.
Yeah.
It should be treated the same way. It's a point the other way. It needs to be.
One of the things is that judges that don't respect time, like that drives me crazy. And I stressed this and made this key rules in VFT when I start laying out rules for that. And you see, like, you got high level fighters or some semi-high level fighters. It could be 3 to 5 seconds left, right? this fighter's over there, this fighter goes in. The judge will kind of let that time window down and just kind of start bowing them out.
I think
Crazy. You still, and you can score 3 points in 2 seconds, depending on what you do. You can run a quick jump spin hook kick. That's 3 points.
I think with the last 30 seconds,
the last few seconds, I think seriously, not all of them, but a lot of judges packing in. They just be looking like.
I think with the last 30 seconds, it should be stop time.
I don't agree with that, Coach.
I think the last 30 seconds should be stop time.
But I think that anything like if a player's out of bounds or he got to pick up his headgear or something, like be urgent about stopping the time.
I think I think you're right. If you've got a good center who's policing that, I think that's the best case scenario. But Coach, the reason why I don't agree with stopping it is because if, let's say, Jackson and I are fighting and Jackson's up by 5 and there's 30 seconds left, right? And we all know that every clash they're going to stop it for every time that it stops for the last 30 seconds. And the reason why is there a possibility now that I might come back? So all those close calls, they're just going to be looking at me. Did he get it? Did he get it? It doesn't end up fair.
Listen, it ends up fair as long as it's a rule. Anything that's a rule, no matter what happens, okay, it's like in boxing. Oh, he got a lucky shot. No, there's no such thing as a lucky shot. You're in there to fight. You got hit. It wasn't lucky. That's what the guy's there to do, to hit you, right? Okay, we're at a tournament to fight. So fight. You want that most of your time to fight.
I think it should be running time when the fighters are at the line. Not when the fighters are walking around, taking the scenic route to get back to the line, and the time is ticking, and you're at the line ready to go.
Yeah. What if you take that rule and just change it a little bit? Let's do 10 seconds. That would probably be a good beneficial thing instead of 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time when you really break it down. That can take, just go back and watch most of the videos from MPL on YouTube, and the 2-minute fight becomes 4 or 5 minutes. So I've seen that. But
I want to know
if you do 10 seconds, it might make it flow better. Because if you have, let's split the difference in say 20 seconds, because 10 seconds is maybe 3 clashes, right?
It ain't.
Which
I've seen 6 clashes in 10 seconds, but
maybe. But here's what I'm
30
saying.
is too long. 30 is too long.
Yeah, it is.
30 is too
maybe
long.
15 seconds.
Here's what I'm trying to say. If you stop the clock, then there's no reason for a fighter to have to take the scenic route, which would probably take longer than having to stop the clock, right? If you're stopping the clock, then the fighters don't have any reason to waste time. So they're just going to come back to the line, and it might actually expedite the process.
Right. But let's get this as another whole topic, and let's get back on what we're here.
Welcome to what happens behind the scenes in CAPA meetings. You're like, what about this? But I promise you, all we do is focus on what's currently in place and to make sure that is consistent. And obviously help back to timing to help tournaments become more efficient. One of the big things we've really pushed for is the medic thing, right? So, and because I was in AKAs, my dad was there with me, 73 years old. I was helping judge, and one of the fighters got hurt, right? And they couldn't find a medic, so people were screaming, medic. No, he wouldn't come, which looks horrible. One of the corner refs starts running around the tournament trying to find the medic. Took him 5 or 6 minutes to get back. Then the fighter has 4 minutes from that time for the medic to treat him. That's 10 minutes. I took 10 minutes to address that one injury. This happens a dozen times a tournament, right? At least. That's 2 hours that tournament promoter lost of running divisions if you add all that time up. Simply having walkie-talkie or that earpiece that Quebec had, which was awesome. Medics were there, dude. Medics were there. Their downtime was minimal. I guarantee you they saved 2 or 3 hours compared to what other tournaments do with medics. So our goal was to help them become more efficient so they could start at a good time and end at a good time. And they're listening. They really are listening. It made a huge difference. So kudos to Quebec for having those earpieces. I talked to Toby, and they're thinking about doing the same thing because it just made it so efficient with injuries that no one got to milk the clock in that manner.
Thank you, Josh, for getting us back on track.
Yes.
It Yeah, Josh, you want to talk about the weigh-in stuff also that might be taking place?
Yeah, well, yeah. So we'll do that. So when we do I'll do real quick. When we do our CAPA ratings, here's what we look for. We rate them on how are the ring size, the safety, were they weighing in properly with IDs? Are they posting their prize money? And what prize money are they following? Before we started pushing, some tournament promoters would even post prize money. We wouldn't even know. So that's just unacceptable. So are they posting it and where is it at? The judging, obviously the coach's experience, coach's passes, the safety, the medics. How's the nighttime show? Did they start on time? How was the scheduling? Or the men and women, was it equality? Like, are they putting just men fighting on stage in the nighttime or do women get to fight also? And we all know, like at Ocean State, Kitana and Paul Mitchell, that girl, they won the show. That was a great fight. Like, that was amazing. Right. So some tournaments don't even put women fighting on stage right now. It happened last year. Right. So it's equality, floor management. So we rated our tournaments based on that information, not from what we thought, but from all the players and all the coaches. We're doing surveys. Every tournament, we send out surveys. Yeah. We send out surveys and we get tons of feedback, tons of responses. That's how we're gathering this input, is we're gathering data from the consumer. It's not just coaches. If you went off our opinion, what we talked about the last 45 minutes, that's what they'd be hearing. But they're not hearing that. They're not hearing, we want 30-second stop time. We want this. We want these. They're not hearing that. They're hearing what's coming from the spectators, from the competitors, from the parents. So that's how we're gathering this information and we're moving forward. So what the battle's doing,
let us know about
is doing.
Josh, can you go back and tell people where they can get these surveys and how they can participate? Like who they should message?
So message Jesse. Don't message Mike. Technology is not his favorite thing. Don't message me because I don't even have social media. But message Jesse, and we get those out there. We send them out to everyone who's at the event all the time. And we're getting some awesome feedback. It's really neat to see the information that they're providing. They're filling a survey out. They're giving a bunch of notes, a bunch of feedback. It's been incredibly helpful. Here's one thing we got from the Quebec Open. I'll share with you that the battle is doing. And actually they did last year anyways. We talked about judging fatigue, right? Judges should not be judging point fighting for 4 hours straight. That type of focus it takes at a high level, you get tired. That's why Waco rotates, right? And at the battle, they're rotating. They have four judges for open weight with 2 rings. So they're to constantly rotate them through. So there's no judging fatigue. There's a judge at Quebec who was decent at best the first 2 hours. The last 2 hours, man, he was horrible. Everyone's yelling at him, screaming at him, which obviously doesn't help anyways. But he had judging fatigue. He wasn't a horrible judge, but he got progressively worse. He was tired. So they brought to the point, rotate judges. Pay attention to judging fatigue. Don't attack them for their bad calls. Just assume they're tired. Rotate someone in that's fresh. So that's some great feedback. And the battle is doing that. They're listening. They're rotating judges in and out, just like Waco, to make sure they stay fresh.
Hey, real quick, off note, we got to have a meeting one day with Mark Plucker.
CAPA
meeting. He has a very interesting perspective about medics at a tournament, and it's something that even got me thinking. So we got to bring him in one of our meetings one day and hear what he has to say. Jackson, I know you would love to hear you being in the medical field yourself.
Yeah, the liability of it.
I've been meaning to hit up Mr. Plucker with things like concussion protocol. There should be a published concussion protocol that does, as he's saying, go beyond the level of a medic. So, Dr. Plucker, I got you.
He's been dropping gold in the comments.
Yeah,
the whole stream.
Yeah,
love it. Yeah.
So, and I think what you brought up, Jesse's perfect. I think especially with the concussion protocol. I mean, really, if we're being honest and we were looking at a fighter that we don't have any affiliation with, we're just watching 2 fighters, and we saw someone get, like, whether it's a flash knockout or just get dropped and just be down a few seconds, we would all say, yeah, they're done for the weekend. Done. Not just they can't continue that fight, the weekend. Done. Because that's crazy that someone can get, oh, you got a concussion, you're out on Friday. And then first thing Saturday morning, they're fighting again. Like, what?
Alex, I was coaching Kitana, and she dropped a girl, definitely dropped her. The girl was covering her eyes from the light. Like, you could tell she was concussed. The medic, they took her like 6-7 minutes, got back, they let her go. Kitana hit her again, not even that hard. They carried her out in a stretcher. I'm not playing because everyone knew she was concussed. Like, she shouldn't be fighting.
And that's how you die in the ring. Just that second hit from the, if you're already concussed, that's the one that could kill you.
And I'll be very transparent and say that I am very lucky that did not happen to me. I will tell you, I had like the worst. There's a tiny little thing here, Jeff. I'm sorry, don't kill me. All right, I had the worst little streak in like a couple of days that this happened. This was the leading into the Diamonds 2006. BJ Carnahan knocks me out 2 days before the tournament in training. All right. And that was the plus and the minus of training with BJ. You train with BJ, you're going to fight every match like you're fighting for the overall. And the problem with it is 2 days later, you might be knocked out and not be able to fight for the overall because of that. All right. But you always had to bring your best. Anyway, he knocks me out in training. Whatever, it's the Diamonds. I'm still going to fight. So I go there. Jermon Wiggins hits me with just this light hand, and I'm out, right? It was in a super fight where I'm winning the match. I'm out, can't fight. The next day, I go back. I'm fighting. I win like 3-4 rounds. I'm fighting Greg Betlock for first place in the division, and his homeboy knows it, right? Because it's Greg. He knows me. Drops me hard, right? And I'm lucky. Look at how lucky I am that I don't have it. I mean, knock on wood, right? Immense brain damage because of that. But that was a seriously dangerous thing that I did to myself.
You sure? Right? You sure you don't?
I should have never even entered the tournament, right? I mean, if we all looked at that as somebody you didn't know when you saw it happen, you should be like, you should not even enter this tournament. That's what should have happened. Not only did I enter it, I entered it and got dropped twice.
Right.
Hey, so UFC fighters, if a UFC fighter gets knocked out, it's 6 months. Like, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. If you get knocked out, it's 6 months. You can't fight again for 6 months. Now, granted, their sport's a lot more high impact than ours is, but if you get hit in the head that hard, you get hit in the head that hard. Anyway.
Right.
Some of our speed knockouts are the same.
Yeah, in boxing, if you get knocked out cold, it's a mandatory minimum 90-day suspension. Right. If you get TKO'd, it's anywhere between 30 and 60 days with even a cut.
Can't spar.
30 to 60 days. Okay,
Isn't that right, Coach? You can't even spar.
You know what's funny?
You can't even be in the gym.
Wow.
Waco has that protocol too. Now we're talking about point karate.
Right.
Yeah, they have something.
Hey, so guys, let's kind of figure out how to wind this down. So, Josh, do we still want to talk about the last two tournaments? Want to go ahead and do are we doing the review or the rating of the last two? Are you ready to do that? Or
maybe we do Ocean State and then
do Ocean State
and do Quebec
another time.
Let's see what kind of time we're working with.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So we didn't have Ocean State last year. We gave a 4.5 star, which was the highest. We gave 3 tournaments. Ocean State, Amerikick, and Battle all got 4.5 out of 5 stars. Those are our highest rated tournaments based on the criteria that we judged it upon. And we think Ocean State did great. They did a 7x7 ring. The only thing it was 6x6 with an out of bounds. You know, we want it to be 7x7. We maybe think that was our miscommunication, maybe not clearly stating we want a fighting surface of 7x7. If there's a warning, if there's an out of bounds track, it'll be 8x8. But they made a bigger stage. They made adjustments. They gave away a ton of money, multiple divisions. I thought the tournament was ran really well. So we gave it another 4.5 star. We thought they did a phenomenal job. Obviously, there's some things about the tournament that it can improve on, but overall, they were awesome. There's some great feedback overall from the reviews that we got.
Yeah, and Josh, that was based not just on your opinion or Jesse's opinion or coach's or mine. It was
Can you
on the
surveys? Oh no.
Say again.
Did you send them the survey, Josh, or no?
No, I didn't.
It's not through this program. They don't have it, but I'll make sure I make them available for sure. So
Okay.
All the responses and their feedback and all the different questions. They rate the venue. They rate the judging. They rate, and every tournament we've done, judging is always rated poor. There's never been a tournament so far that everyone said the judging was awesome. We're so glad of the judging. That's about the hardest, the most consistent thing we've seen from all these surveys we've done is almost everyone thinks that judging is poor or the issues with judging. It's probably the biggest issue in our sport right now is judging overall. Hence, the quick reference form for forms and fighting for weapons and forms. It's going to make a big difference. So, but I thought overall Ocean State was awesome. They said they're giving even more money next year, which is crazy to think about. There's an awesome turnout. So we're just really encouraging coaches and teams to support these events that actually are really trying to make a difference in our sport. So, and they're definitely one of them.
A lot of the good things about Ocean State was the customer service.
Yes.
Everybody talked about the scheduling. They made the try to make the bigger ring adjustment. One of the complaints was, of course, the different rooms. Vince just said in the chat that the ring was against the wall. That was kind of dangerous. The prize money is like no other tournament. And they work with us. They really trying to communicate and do what's best for the tournament. They had several meetings. They had coaches meetings. They had Christine goes live before each event. They customer service, discount codes available for teams and things of that nature, coaches passes. And they did a separate ID and everything as well.
They did this, and this is directly from hearing feedback from the coaches and the players, and they did this first. One of the Naska rules is they only have to separate teammates the first round, right? So they could have, if I have 6 fighters and there's 40-some people, they can all be in the same side of the bracket as long as they don't fight that first round, which we think is horrible. But Christine was very big about getting online and said, listen, with Uventex, if you put your exact team name consistently in all your players, it can't be Team JPM, it has to be Team John Paul Mitchell for everybody. It can't be stated differently. It can't be TDE, has to be Team Dojo Elite. So they have to be exactly listed the same. And their system put them on opposite ends of the brackets as best as they could. Now, Mad Action is going to do the same thing at the battle. So these tournaments, they're listening. They were the first one to say, listen, that's not fair. I pay for my team to go cross country to go fight, and they can fight second round and be out and not be able to fight their way down to the end.
It's second round, but technically it's first round, because if me and Mike are teammates and he got a bye and I'm the second fight, right?
Yep.
First fight, exactly.
This fight, that's still my first round.
It can be the first fight for the second round. So
it's not.
We've seen that a lot.
Yeah, the battle says the thing. So if you're going to the battle, you have to be listed the exact same as your teammates as far as the team you're on. It can't be different. And the battle is the same thing. They'll put you on different ends of the bracket. And before, I don't think promoters cared. They didn't care, but now they're listening and they care because it's a big issue for the fighters. They don't want to fight their teammates second or first round. They want to be able to make it to the finals against them.
And just to be clear,
real clear, coaches, you have to register your players under one name. If you have a rogue player that you say, yo, just register yourself and I'll pay you when you get there or whatever. If they register under TDE and not Team Dojo Elite, there are the software is going to look at them like two total different entities, and they could be in the first round. So a lot of that is on the coaches as well.
But Don and Christine did that first, right? They made it known. They found out to make sure to do it right. So we really appreciate the effort they put into that event. So it was awesome.
The 3 events that you mentioned were Ocean State, Battle, and AmeriKick. Okay, and those are the 3 events that are constantly talking to us about making their events better.
Too, Mike.
Quebec now too.
Quebec also, yes. Quebec also, yes. But they are really trying to make the events better. So those 4 events are really working to push.
Yeah, we had those, including Pan Am. We had 5 events that are, in our opinion, based on feedback from not just what us 4 think or us 3 think. Jackson and Jeff were not a part of that original rating system. So if you are a promoter or whatnot, they did not have input onto that side of it. They will in the future. But once again, we don't make the decisions. It's the feedback we're getting from all the coaches, all the players. We gather information and we put it all together. We say, hey, listen, 80% of people didn't like the venue. They didn't like this. They had a problem with this. Money wasn't posted. And then we just rate based on the data we get. So those 5 we feel are really really trying.
Jeff, do we got time to do Quebec real quick?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go,
right.
Josh.
Well,
Yep.
we did not rate Quebec last year because there was no Quebec last year, right?
Right.
So overall, Quebec probably had the best ratings as far as the reviews received. Now, we did receive about 50% less than we normally receive. So I'm not sure if the data would have been consistent going forward, but they got awesome reviews on the venue. So personally, I love the venue. I didn't like the ease of getting to the venue. It's difficult for me to get to. I think they could do better about running shuttles constantly, but the location itself is awesome, right? Getting there is not always the easiest thing because Ubers in Quebec they're not just around the corner. And so, but the venue, everyone was really excited about. The prize money, they had extra Walko divisions. They gave, you know what they did? They gave, if you won your division, you got money. So a lot of NASCAR tournament promoters don't do that. They told me before, it's just $100. It's just $200. But I remember the very first time I won my division and I got to go in the money line, right? And I got to see
coolest thing ever, right?
Right. I got to see Brian and Raymond Daniels and J6. I'm like, I'm in line with these guys. I only made $100, but I felt like I won. It wasn't about how much money, it's being in the money line. So they did that. They brought that back. I thought that was awesome of them to pay for a division winner. So
that was the best feeling ever to be on that money line.
Same.
With Kevin Thompson and Anthony Price and all of these dudes, Richard Plowden, and I'm in here like, yeah, we not got to sign that. That was the best feeling in the world.
Quebec did that. And I'm telling you, the competitors were excited about it. They really were. Even though it's not a lot of money, it's the thought that counts in that moment, you know. So they're trying. They're trying. So they did really well there. Being totally transparent, I thought the judging was good. I thought it could have been better. At one point, they had 5 judges in one black belt ring and 3 in another ring, and they're side by side. And I don't know why they had different amount of judges in each ring. They did have a few judges that definitely had some judge fatigue and were struggling. They had some issues. They had some judges. Walko's really big there. They have Walko's really big there. And actually, anyways, I won't go into that. But so sometimes we're calling 1 point for body kicks. It communicated it was 2 points. I think they're calling the right technique, but they still weren't super clear. But overall, the judging was okay to me, right? That's probably the area I think they could grow the most on. But Forms competitors have issues about not having access to music all the time at rings. They took care of that. The medics had the earpieces. Quebec did a really good job. They did a really good job. Customer service was off the chain too. They did a great job on customer service.
I'm gonna say customer service was off the chain from out the gate. Quebec, hands down, to me, has the best nighttime show.
Oh yeah,
of any event. Absolutely.
Any event in sport karate. I mean, if you make it on that stage, you gotta feel like you made it. Like you're about to get a movie deal or something.
Right.
That creates viewership. If you put on a phenomenal show, people are wanting to watch. Yeah.
It was a stadium. I got a video. I should have shared it, and I just panned around the whole thing. Half the people there are not even part of the martial arts community.
Correct. Yeah.
They got it right.
Hey, we got to shout out Claremont. Claremont started that because I remember being on that Quebec stage in the late 2000s when it was Claremont's event, and he would pack that arena with college students from the university.
God.
Yep.
It seems like that's what they got back to this year.
Yes.
And again, engaging that local community to make it a spectacle. It's just so important.
Yeah.
They call your name out. You come from behind that curtain. You walk that little long plank. Then you enter into that mat where there's no way you're going to go out of bounds or fall off a stage. You got lights going with the music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ben talked about that last week. How it was
checks on the big screen.
Yep.
The score. It was just phenomenal, man.
And some of those things aren't that hard to create, right? Like with the lights going to the music, like to me that seemed like the most impossible thing to do. Like, how would you know that? How was a tournament going to know how to do that? Now in the industry that I'm in, I realize, oh wait, that's not that hard, right? That's not that hard to do. There is a totally easy way to do that, right? And everybody has a lighting specialist. Every tournament should have a lighting specialist, or at least somebody who's competent in doing that. they could be able to, DMX that up and have it be no problem, right?
Man.
But it's so cool.
Right.
The last area we usually judge these tournaments on is on the level of competition, right? We all want to compete against the best. When we get together with the coaches, they want to be treated fairly. Obviously, they want great opportunities for their competitors or their athletes, but they want to go where the best are going to be. People don't want to win events where no one's at, right? Competition in Quebec Open could have been better. They have some amazing local competition. There's one fighter, I forget his name. He beat Devin, and he gave
Canadian. Yeah.
business. This guy was good. He was a good look. I wish he could come down to the States. But we need more people going up to Quebec and supporting them because level competition could have been better. Not many national teams went up there. I know it's not cheap, but it's worth the experience. They do a great job. So level competition wasn't the highest there, but they can't control who always goes there. But they definitely put on a great show.
Yeah, the Canadians were there strong, man. There was some Canadians, like you said, that one guy, he beat everybody.
Yeah.
He beat everybody. But
I don't know his name, but he was good.
Jonathan Doucet or Doucet.
Nope.
There you go.
No, that's one of them. That's the guy's been around for a minute. There's another guy who's on his team. He had bald head. He was good.
No.
Okay. Hey,
Jonathan
so
had the beard. He's a strong guy that goes forward. He beat a lot of good fighters too. He beat Devin also, but he was good. Devin fought great, by the way. Won Waco, beat Bailey, had a good tournament. But he's always been good. It's another guy that surprised me who fought open weight really well.
Yeah, he's a shorter guy.
Yeah, the heavier set. That guy. Great takeoff.
He was
But
good.
they need we're trying to push coaches and competitors to go to those events that are actually giving back and trying and making a difference. And Quebec Open is definitely one of them.
Awesome. And do we have a rating yet for that, or?
No, not yet. If I had to guess, it'll definitely at least be a 4-star for sure.
Okay.
So definitely.
Awesome.
But we'll get that finalized soon.
I love it. All right. Any last thing that you guys want to say before we finish up? I mean, because I think we've had a very informative one. We've gone down some rabbit holes, which is fun, which is, and we've also talked about some things that maybe we want to talk about more in the future. And again, guys, it's not just us, complaining. Like these promoters are listening and change is happening. And something that we've been talking about too, and that we always point out, what is one thing that we can focus on to push? Well, let's get one thing better, one step at a time, right? So for us, how can we help the forms judges know how to do better? How can that gray area be eliminated from the out of bounds rule? How can we make sure safety is a big deal? Those are all things that we can really focus on. So
I would just say this. I would say if you spend money as a parent or if you're coaching a team, you take your team to different events. If you're a competitor and you're a solo competitor, whatever, you go to tournaments, to try to get behind CAPA and support us because everything we're doing is for you guys. And it's time to stop complaining and it's time to take action. And we are the voice for the people. And I would say to the promoters, please don't take anything personal. We love you all. Some of us are promoters ourselves, and we understand the plight of a promoter. We will never ask anybody to boycott and ban and take money out of promoters' event. But what we will ask for is accountability for certain things that we feel that is safe for the competitors and creates a better competition environment. So don't look at us as an enemy, us against you. We are supporting and helping your event, if anything.
Yeah, we don't benefit from this at all, but for the progress of sport martial arts. Jackson and Jeff and Mike and Jesse and I, we don't have these meetings and have these talks and spend all this time on this because it's financially, beneficial to us. We do it because we love the sport and we want it to improve. We want it to grow. So once again, we want to partner with the promoters. So if you are a competitor or a parent, we need you filling out these surveys. We want to hear, we need to hear your voice. The more information we have, the more we can bring to the promoters and the better we can make this product. So promoters, we're your friends, we'll help you out. And a lot of them treat us like that. Like at Quebec, they did, the Battle's doing it. Ocean State did it. And they didn't do everything we ask or we present to them. We're not demanding anything. We're presenting information to them. And some of them choose to act on it and some of them choose not to. So
So,
Josh,
Josh,
where do people
somebody just asked, how can they support us?
Right where I was going, Jesse.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think I would say send us a message and just let us know that you're interested in supporting, and then we'll get back to you and move from there. Always fill out a survey. Always have your team fill it out. Always have a parent fill it out. Anybody you know has attended the event, fill out a survey. Be heard.
and the events that we recommend, I'm not saying don't only go to those, but try to put those somewhere on your list, right? If we feel like the information we're getting from the players and coaches, this is a must go to event. Just trust us on that, because the ones that we've been pushing so far have done a really, really good job. They're really, and we talk to every promoter. We're not singling anyone out. We send promoters an email of questions. Are you going to have this, A, B, C, D? And some respond and some don't. We're giving everyone opportunity to let us know what's going on, so we can get the word out there. We have a players meeting coming up soon with all the competitors. We had a coaches meeting last week. This one's with the players, letting them know what's going on in the battle. Here's the prize money. Here are the rules. Here's how they're doing weigh-ins differently. So we're trying to inform them too. So just stay in communication.
Your team is there.
Yep.
And what was I going to say? Yeah, make sure your team participates in the players meeting.
And yeah, the Facebook thing, that's a progress. That's something in progress. But again, right now, reach out to Jesse. You can reach out to me, and we will make sure, if you want to be involved in this players meeting, contact one of us, and we will make sure you get involved. So,
do you guys have any thoughts or plans to rank or rate any European tournaments?
Are we out of time?
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, we did some local tournaments too. So we are not just a Naska circuit rating system. We any event that people compete at that have players at it, we're down to rate it.
What about European tournaments?
European too, but
okay,
of course the influence is a little different over there.
I know.
Right.
I mean, really, our audience who we're speaking to is we're right here in the States.
Right.
For the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. We get it.
Awesome. All right, Alex.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Thank you, guys. Thank you, CAPA. Thanks, Insiders. See you guys next week.